Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes and fire, is a central figure in the Hawaiian mythology and culture. She is also considered a creator and a destroyer, embodying both the destructive power of volcanic eruptions and the creative force of new land formation. She is revered and feared by many Hawaiians who still believe she resides in Kilauea, the volcano, and influences the volcanic activity on the island of Hawaii. Hello, I'm Brent Carlson. Welcome to Brethren Voices. Fire of a different kind visited the island of Maui in August of 2023 as a horrific wildfire destroyed the historic town of Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii. It was the deadliest wildfire in the United States during the last 100 years. The Lahaina fire caused widespread destruction and loss of life. Over 100 people lost their lives. The start of the Lahaina fire was speculated to have been caused by downed power lines which ignited dried vegetation in areas outside of town. Fierce winds swept the fast-moving fire through the historic city, which was once known as a whaling capital. The American Red Cross became involved in serving survivors of the devastation in Maui. And the Church of the Brethren's Children's Disaster Services and its volunteers were called to serve children and families. CDS provided respite childcare for 6 weeks following the disaster. Volunteers arrived in Hawaii with 2 of the CDS trademark kits of comfort suitcases. The suitcases contained carefully selected toys promoting child-led imaginative play. They encouraged children to express themselves, starting the process of healing from various forms of trauma. The CDS centers provide a calm, safe, and reassuring presence in the midst of the chaos created by numerous kinds of disasters, some caused by nature and some caused by humans. Through painting, toys, and imaginative play, volunteers create a safe place for children recovering from the wildfires at the Family Assistance Center on Maui. The CDS volunteers came in 2 groups. The first group served at a local hotel that was putting up the survivors and the staff and feeding them daily so they would have a place to stay. And outside the assistance center, the child care center was set up in the beach with the waves in the background and under big canopies so the children could actually play outside. The second group served another 3 weeks in a different location. But both groups worked with 20 to 30 children a day, with 1 shift in the morning and 1 shift in the afternoon, staffed by 4 volunteers each. And one interesting thing that only happens in Hawaii, the families are so tight-knit, and the extended families are all part of the family, that elderly people are called aunties and uncles. And over time, the volunteers were called auntie by the children who came to be with them. So we're very grateful for the aunties who served at the Children's Disaster Service Centers and for all the people who helped in the recovery mission in Lahaina. Craig Weber had lived on Front Street in Lahaina for over 45 years. He still lives there in a trailer as the wildfire destroyed his 2-story home, which he had hand-built. He now lives in a mobile home and still loves Maui. He shared with us about his life on Maui.
I landed here in Hawaii on Oahu in 1965, or actually 1962. I graduated from high school in 1965. And also, of course, living in Hawaii, I was a surfer. So Surfing Magazine was kind of a new thing here on the publications. And it had a photo spread that was entitled "The Secret Outer Island Surf Spot," and they didn't tell you where it was. And we, living in Hawaii, we figured out that it was on Maui, and at a place called Honolulu Bay. Any surfer would know what Honolulu Bay is. And there was a photo spread that said it was secret. But we lived here in Hawaii, so we figured out where it was, and we had to come over here to Maui, So we jumped on an inter-island airplane. Back then it was like $12 to go one way to any of the islands. 12, it might have been $15, I don't remember, but I jumped on a plane and came over and looking for this secret outer island spot. I stayed in the Pioneer Inn, which is in Lahaina, and it's a real old hotel kind of place near the harbor and the banyan tree. Well, it's gone now, unfortunately. Burned down a couple of years ago. I mentioned burned down.
And that's what happened to so many others.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
After being in Maui for several years, Craig decided to build a house. He shared his story about how that happened.
Yeah, it's a house that I built 17 years ago. I had three carpenter buddies of me. We built this 2-story, nice big house. Second floor had 2 bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchens, all that stuff. And then the ground floor had 2 studio apartments, which was all rentals. And that was my income, the house. It was a nice house. So anyway, that's gone. If you can see, you probably already looked at the property over here. There's nothing here anymore. But anyway, I'm living in this trailer here now because my house burned down here too.
Soakai Taufa, who we interviewed for this program, shared with us about the weather that day in August of 2023. Soakai and his family live south of Lahaina town, overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
On that day, I never see any wind that strong. And it's not just come from one direction. It just, maybe 5 minutes here, 10 minutes, all of a sudden things shift, come this way, or come from that way. And that's how the thing. And we were standing here, when the thing started, we couldn't even do anything. We cannot go that side because it's so windy, because, we just stay here, protect from the wind. And watch here all day, watch all the dust devil. You can see some water spout out in the ocean, a few of them. You can see a group of swirling things. And when they meet together, you can see the water spout going up. All of a sudden they break down and they have a few of them. It's just from this area here to Lahaina. There's no one else. Because that means the thing was funneled down, straight down from the mountain this way. And by this time, on Tuesday morning, that's when the fire started. This around 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Craig shared what he experienced on August 7th, the day of that horrific fire, which destroyed most of Lahaina, Maui.
Yes, I was sitting on my lanai, which is on the backside of the main house. It's an outdoor balcony. It looks up to the mountains in West Maui. So, and I see up at Lahaina Luna, which is up there on the hill. Black smoke was coming down the hill. I was sitting on my lanai and with my girlfriend and watching that smoke come down. Eventually, we see houses up in the top. You see where they're all being rebuilt now. They were burning. And then right across the street on the highway, you can hear the cars going by on the highway. We started seeing the houses that were right on the edge here with flames coming out of their roof. And that's when we said, well, we better get out of here. So we jumped in the car, and I made a big mistake of not throwing a lot of stuff in my car. I got some paintings on the walls and tools. I had a whole workshop full of all kinds of carpenter tools, you know, power tools and all that. I could have thrown most of that in the back of my truck, but I didn't.
We have often heard, just get out of the house. Don't try to gather up those possessions. Craig did the smart thing and left his home and all of those valuables.
Yeah. And then I tried to round up, I had 2 cats at the time. I tried to round them up, but they were hiding out somewhere, probably under the house, because they undoubtedly saw the fire coming too. But so anyway, I never found the cats. That's kind of bothered me too all along.
Flames had traveled down the hillside of that West Maui mountain community, and Craig left his home of 46 years.
We went out of town near the Civic Center, where the police station is up there, and we went down below there at a little park on the beach, and we were probably a quarter mile away from where my house was burning. So we saw the flames blowing out over the ocean. There was flames coming out of all these houses and buildings. And the wind was, you could see flames probably 50 to 100 yards offshore, where the flames are going right over the ocean. And it was pretty horrendous. That was that. And then the next day I came down here. Couldn't go down Front Street, it was blocked off. But I stopped across the street at the highway and walked over the highway and walked through the lot. And of course, police came along, you know, and they said, oh, they're standing out on the highway waving me off. So I went and they understood what I was doing, you know, but they still didn't want you down there, because apparently there was a lot of hazardous materials and stuff down there.
Craig now lives in a travel trailer on the same lot that he had built his home on years ago. And we ask him, what gives you hope?
You know, I know, you know, I'm still here. Well, you know, even though I'm sitting on a vacant lot in a trailer, Hawaii and Maui is still a really great place to live, and I don't really mind it that much. I can walk across the street, sit on the seawall, watch the sunset, and I do that pretty often, you know, with a cold beer in my hand. And pretty much my day now these days, I sit out here on my lanai, my beautiful lanai. I think it's the best place in the whole world you could ever live, and I really feel good about that I live here, and that's why I'm not going to go anywhere. I know of some people who just bailed out completely on Maui, went back to the mainland and stuff. And but not me. I'm at home.
All of the lots have been cleared of debris as well as any hazardous materials, and the lots are covered with gravel. We asked Craig who would be given the credit for this amazing cleanup work.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, which is a well-known agency. They came in and cleaned it up, or they hired the people to clean it up, which was heavy equipment, a lot of dump trucks, backhoe type of machinery, and they cleared all the stuff. There's a lot of concrete left here, a lot of footings and house footings, you know, and I had a bunch of them. They dug those all up out of the ground and dragged them away, and you know, and I didn't really realize that they were doing it. I never expected to come back to a lot like this. I'm thinking about maybe a tiny home, or one of these little tiny pre-made homes. You know, you can buy a package deal on them, cheap and easy, and could be movable. I'd rather save my insurance money for retirement. because I'll probably end up in a assisted housing or something like that one of these days.
We thank Craig for sharing his story with us. He was very gracious and still is a person who appreciates living on Maui.
All right, you're welcome. Aloha.
Brethren Voices shares the stories of what people do because of their faith. Soakai Taufa and his family live south of the historic town of Lahaina, overlooking the highway that connects Lahaina with most of Maui. Soakai once lived on Tonga before moving to Maui.
Well, I moved here from Tonga in 1982, and we come and stay in Oahu. We were here for a rugby tournament, and that's how we get here, and we're supposed to go back, but I really like it over here, so I just hang around over here ever since. And we went to mainland all over the place, in mainland way back in the 80s, but we love it here. The first time when we get here, it's almost like back in Tonga. The climate, food, the trees, everything. It's just like back home. So we were moving around in mainland for like 3-4 years, and I decided to move back here. So we moved back to Oahu and worked there for a few years, and we would travel from there to over here just for the weekend for one of my friend's birthday party. And when we get here, then we kind of noticed that this is real paradise. Everything was real slow, and we never really have any, up and running every time. So we decided to stay here and find a job here, and I work here and find my wife, and that was it.
We wondered what type of work Soakai did for an occupation.
I do construction. I do carpenter work, masonry. I'm a carpenter journeyman and masonry journeyman. But this timer, now you can just pick up whatever come in your way.
We assumed, falsely, that there were probably many jobs in construction services after the devastating fire.
Well, it was before and after the fire. Everything was full stop. Everything just, all of a sudden, there's nothing out there. And that's how I end up doing what I was doing over there, because there was nothing going there. And I said, well, and I slowly hear all the story about what's going on down there, about the fire and stuff. And that was right after when we built all the crosses. Oh. And after that one, then I had to come back, but before the fire, I have a job down here. And after the fire, we shut down for a month. And after that, they call us back to come and finish what we were starting. So, but I was only over there for a week, and I finished what I was doing. And after that, then I never really feel like doing any works or anything. I just wanna. And plus, over here, everything was all overgrown, and the trees started dying because there was no water for months. No electricity and water for months. So thank God there were some people, they were helping, bringing up gas for generator and food and water. Because what we ever have here that before the fire, there was it for weeks. We were not allowed to go down. If you go down there, you're not allowed to come back up. So we were stay put until they were allow us to go down, but one person per household allowed to go down to get food or get gas from gas station. So we were doing that for about another month before they start open up.
Even though he had not lived in the fire zone, his activities were greatly impacted.
Oh, there was nothing here. Everything stopped. Whatever was in your house, that's all you're gonna get for months. And after I think they secure all the entrance and everything, and they start to organize the donation thing. You go to a specific place where to chop off those donations, and all our friends here, they call us from from Kahului and all over the place. They will call us what we need, and that's how they get here. And all the big one, all the corporation thing, they just go to a certain spot and just set their stuff over there. But what we have here, they come over here and drop it off for us, and that's how we survive for a while.
Sowakai shared with us the feeling that he had, some might say he was called to help people in the community affected by the disaster. He sculpted a unique creation to honor the victims and assist the survivors who need healing after the disaster.
Well, after we put up all the crosses, then as I mentioned before, then I come back and finish what I was for my work, and I did that in 2 weeks, and I went back to all the crosses and see how, if there are some people who are still there, what's the place. And when I go over there, the weed and the tall grass will start covering everything. Then I went over there and look around, and I start cleaning up, and I say to myself, well, there's nobody around here. Maybe this is going to be my job from now on, to take care of the place. So I start do a lot of weed eating, rearrange all the crosses, because that spot over there is very harsh for the weather. It's always windy, it's always hot on that spot. So I was make sure that everything is still, retie all the crosses and replace all the flags and maintain the whole thing. We keep it clean for that whole year. And when the 1 year anniversary is coming up, about a few months before that, I was thinking about what else I can do to help with their healing process. And then that's how I come up with the Teardrops of Lahaina. But I never have enough money to start anything. So I start call around my friends. I don't really need anybody, I need materials. And then how I start, I get some few materials here at my base yard. So I will start going to the county meeting and ask for permission, see where's the right spot for me to build it. And when I start going and talk to them, you know how politics are. And I heard a lot of people from down there, they told me, just come and do it. If you really want to, if you put your mind into it, just come and do it. And I talked to a lot of groups, they say they're going to help. And that's what, motivate me and encourage me to keep going, because I know there was somebody's going to come and help me. So I kept going. When I'm out of money and out of materials, I had to stay back. I had to come and find a job and work. When I get paid, I go buy what I need, then go back and start. And get to the halfway point, all those groups, they say they're going to help me, nobody show up. So a lot of my friends, they told me to put up some Venmo things on the Facebook things for the people, but I never really want to put them up, because I know if I put those up, the only people who will try to help is the Lahaina people. And I don't want to put any more weight on their shoulders. So I just keep asking around and ask people to donate up here. And some of my neighbors here, they help me. Because I didn't want to ask the Lahaina people, because they have their own, thing they do think about.
We asked him, how did you decide to create this giant teardrop?
Yeah, when I build it, when I think about those, because everything was in my mind. I never draw anything. I just figured out this is what I'm gonna do. And when I build a shape and put him up, and I said to myself, what else can I can help make the thing to stand out and this really meant something for the community. And there's one thing that was coming up to me that put a heart right in the middle of it, all the way through it. And when I'm putting that, because there's a void there, and I think, oh, all right, I will make this as a representative of the missing tears of those people are not here. And when I think, when you think about something like that, and it will mean a lot to whatever you're making, and you're gonna make it happen. And when I doing that, and I save that spot, not to put too much sprays or anything on it, just to make sure that I have that heart went through it. But all what I did over there, I just want to help out my community with their, like I say, with their healing process. Make sure that they know there's somebody care for them, and encourage them just to move forward. Yeah, and that's all I want to it.
In conclusion, we want to thank Craig Weber and Soakai Taufa for sharing part of this story. Hopefully, the sharing will help us all in appreciating life and those around us. Here's one note that we want to pass along. The U.S. Institute of Peace, which got its start in 1980s with the help of the Church of the Brethren along with other religious groups, including the Quakers, has been dismantled by one of those executive orders. The U.S. Institute of Peace held private and independent status since its creation in 1984 by Congress to support global peacemaking efforts. Legal action was attempted, but the board and headquarters in Washington, D.C. were taken over and its staff dismantled by the Department of Government Efficiency. This is Brent Carlson wishing you peace during these troubled times. Pass it on.
It doesn't matter what you have or what situation you need, but if you see somebody that really need help, help them.